Hey there, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Jungle Drums. I'm joined by my good friend and fellow gamer, Sergeant J.
Hola.
How you doing this evening, bud?
Good. I'm glad it's holiday time now.
That's right. So how long are you on holiday for again?
Just for the week, so I'll be next Saturday. This Saturday to the following Saturday.
Are you getting up to anything nice? Are you going away anywhere?
Just down to Devon.
Ooh.
Just the week there. So I'll be gorging myself on cream teas and whatnot.
Quite right. That's the stereotypical home of clotted cream, is it not?
Exactly. So, you've got to make the most of it, haven't you?
Quite right. No, that's good. That's good. Oh, when am I gonna? I'm hoping I can still take my winter holiday, but problem is now with uni, with the exam times and stuff, I'm not going to be able to go at the same week that we usually do. So I'm going to have to adjust accordingly. Unfortunately.
Where were you thinking of going?
Oh well, every winter we always go to Portugal. We always go to the Algarve, and it's generally we go just the week before Christmas, like not right to the minute, but you know what I mean, like and it's just lovely because I mean in Scotland at that time of year it's usually cold, miserable, quite often wet, and then we go over there and it's usually low to mid 20s. I always come back with a suntan because, well, this is the thing, because I've lived in so many hot climates, I just have to look up at the sun and I just I catch it, I don't really get burnt or anything like that. So so no, it's just one of those things that there's like a family holiday usually each year, but the winter one, it's just me and my partner, just the two of us, and we just have a nice week of just walking around, exploring the sites, lots of Long Island iced teas or mojitos, a little bit of shopping here and there, whining and dining, and it's good for the soul. It recharges us.
Exactly.
For the year ahead. But no, that's kind of like our annual kind of migration is there every winter, just for a week. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe this year, hopefully. But anyway, right, I suppose we should crack on with talking about some news, some gaming and tech news, because, well, that is kind of what we do here. So our first item is from Nintendo Enthusiast, and this is about the very, very popular site that's been going on for, what is it now, like 2 decades, I think? 20 years or so?
It's been quite a while, isn't it?
It has been ages, and of course this is to do with Emu Paradise. It has removed its entire library of retro game ROMs and ISOs. Now, we all know that Nintendo is, they're quite fierce when it comes to protecting their intellectual property, whether it's copyright or trademarks or whatever. But for nearly 2 decades, this site, Emu Paradise, has been the go-to place, for people who want to, basically get emulation games. Now remember, the legal aspect of emulation is if you own the physical game, it's okay to own the ROM and ISO generally. Now a lot of companies still aren't super comfortable with that, but in the eyes of the law, it's fine. It's the same. Remember, it's always been that way with music. If you own music, you were allowed, like back in the day when people actually bought physical CDs. I mean, I know they still exist, but let's be honest, nowadays, Jay, you're a bit younger than me. I mean, don't most people just stream music nowadays and go and buy unless they want vinyl, I suppose.
I mean, it's very rare, isn't it, that you see any of that sort of stuff nowadays being sort of bought or anything. I mean, a lot of fans will say, like, for example, I still have CDs and everything, because obviously I've got an oldish car that's got a CD player and not one of these fancy attached to your phone things. But yeah, as you say, like, not many people really buy them anymore, do they?
No. But I mean, so this site had a vast collection of ROMs and ISOs. Atari, NES, then more modern things like the Wii and the PSP. So it was a very, very popular website. But the site's creator recently put out an announcement stating that their website is now changing. So here is a quote. "It is not worth it for us to risk potentially disastrous consequences. I cannot in good conscience risk the futures of our team members who have contributed to the site through the years. We run Emu Paradise for the love of retro games and for you to be able to revisit those good times. Unfortunately, it's not possible right now to do so in a way that makes everyone happy and keeps us out of trouble. You won't be able to get your games from here for now. Where we go with this is up to us and up to you." So I think what's quite interesting is now, I don't know if there's been a threat of legal action to the site owners and whatnot, but a few weeks ago, Nintendo did file a lawsuit against the owner of Love ROMs and Love Retro for the tidy sum of $100 million US. And those sites are very, very similar to Emu Paradise. They've got retro games, emulators, and then just within hours of that lawsuit being filed, both websites were taken offline. So it's just, we don't know. It doesn't, Emu Paradise, they haven't made any kind of statement whether it has anything to do with Nintendo being the reason. But it has had run-ins with Nintendo in the past. Back in 2017, for example, all of Nintendo's first-party titles were taken down from Emu Paradise's library. And this is what we said in the beginning, that Nintendo's always been very strong about protecting their own intellectual properties, their first-party games. So, at the end of the day, it's a shame, because this is probably one of the most trusted sites out there for people who enjoy emulation, the emulated game scene. But it's not going to exactly kill that entire community off. I mean, there are other sources out there for people that want to play ROMs and ISOs. But the thing is, the difference being that Emu Paradise was at least safe. Everything there was vetted. You knew that you weren't downloading a virus or, some type of Trojan. And that's one of the dangers, I always, I encounter all the time with like my, younger members of the family who, are like, oh, hey, you can download this and you can download that. And it's like, well, yes, you could. But A, it's illegal. And B, you just have no idea, what you're actually downloading. I mean, I remember when BitTorrent and whatnot had all first came out, Jay, like, funnily enough, I was over in South Korea, so it was fair game over there. There was no... Now they have a really fierce copyright law over there. I guess after years and years of just letting it, be like friggin' the Wild West, except it was over in the East, they finally started hammering down on it. But back then, so BitTorrent, I used to use a site called Demonoid, and it was great. You could get whatever you wanted. But you did have to be careful, because you could see like maybe 10 versions of the same file, and they'd all have different sizes, which is usually kind of, a telltale sign that, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Why do 8 of these all have the same size, but then these 2 are bigger? I wonder what's going on there. So yeah, it's one of these things that, you shouldn't be pirating software in the first place. And remember, with emulators, the whole point is that they could offer those, it was fine, but you're supposed to have, you own the physical version. But, oh well. It's, because the same with folks streaming. I know Twitch has kind of been back and forth, haven't they? Like, for a while, people used to do it all the time, streaming emulated games. Then there was like a severe crackdown on it for a little while. Then I think they kind of eased up again, and now they're focusing on music. But yeah, I'll be honest, I've never really been interested in emulating like old games. I think part of that comes from I played a lot of this stuff when it was new. I mean, I remember the Commodore 64 and ZX Spectrum days and the Atari days, and they were cool back then. But the truth is, like, to revisit them, you do kind of recognize that, oh man, yeah, these are crap. But I suppose for a younger generation who missed out on all those things, I suppose it makes sense that they want to see what all the
fuss was about.
Yeah, I mean, what about yourself? Have you ever had a draw to try any of the older stuff?
Not really. I mean, I've emulated some stuff before, like Pokemon, for example, mainly of things like when you want to do it at school and whatnot, to be honest. But no, I mean, I've only really ever emulated if it's sort of games that I had quite an attachment to, I haven't played in a long time. Was like, like, for example, for the remasters, like if I wanted to play a Spyro, for example, or, some of the old school Metroid, like 2D scroller ones. But in terms of really old ones, no, like, I haven't really, to be fair. So I don't really emulate, to be fair, at all. Barely did anyway. Like I said, it's just mainly if it was sometimes at school out of boredom, or other times just some old games for the sake of it.
Yeah, I can get that. I get that. But no, there's a lot of folk out there that, I mean, the whole, that label of retro gaming, it is super, super popular. I mean, I do enjoy quite a lot of the indie titles that are new but have that retro style. Things like Hyper Light Drifter and even Fury and plenty of other great titles out there. Darkest Dungeon is a bit retro, I suppose, isn't it? All sorts of stuff is out there, but oh well. But there you go. So Emu Paradise has removed its entire library, and we don't know really what the future holds for them. And again, it's not official that Nintendo's threatened them or anything, but when you look at the chain of events that happened just to other sites, it wouldn't surprise me if either they...
It does kind of point towards it, doesn't it?
It kind of does, unless maybe they're just, maybe nothing's happened, but there's been possible signs that, okay, they might be looking at us now. We might be next. Let's go ahead and just cease and desist now before we get into trouble.
Do you think part of that as well is that obviously they're quite big anyway, but they would have got much more of a bigger sort of like reckoning due to the fact that these other sites are down, as it said, like a lot of people pointing towards saying, yeah, these guys are still around and everything. And it's, I mean, as I said, they've had their fair share of it before, so they probably are, but...
It could be. I mean, come on, you know what these legal teams are like, they'd probably bring something like that up, be like, hey, in our defense, we don't have the same amount of traffic as this place that's been around for 20 years. It's a fair point. It very well could have been the case. Excuse me. Right, next up is a piece of news from TheVerge.com, and this is to do with Sony and their very successful PlayStation console. Sony is celebrating selling 500 million PlayStations with a limited edition 2TB PS4 Pro with a see-through controller to match, of course. So basically, as we know, Sony has sold a whole bunch of consoles. I remember when I was younger, over in the States, like that Blockbuster Video, where you could rent, video games and films and whatnot, but you could also rent consoles. And so the time I had, it would have been, what was it, Nintendo 64 in 94? Yeah, I would have had, I think, a Nintendo 64 at the time. And the PlayStation was like the brand new shiny, but couldn't, I was that young, I couldn't exactly just beg or, try to use my pocket money to get one. So I used to rent them over the weekend every so often. Yeah. So back in 94, when the PlayStation first came out, it was brilliant. It really, really was. And then each generation, I've owned, I did eventually own an original PlayStation. I had the PS2, but then I never... and also had a PSP, but I've never had a Sony console since. I just ended up, I'd went over to the dark side, and then, of course, the PC. But yeah, the company, if you count all the way from the PlayStation 1 now to their latest and greatest PS4 Pro, they have sold 525.3 million units, which is a huge milestone. That's just, to think that many people in the world, have played on a PlayStation is, that's huge. That's, it's a big number.
It's a heck of a target to be proud of, as you say, isn't it? That's no small feat, is it, really?
No. 500 million. 500 million. There's only 7 billion people estimated on the world, I believe, on planet Earth at the minute. So, to be at I can't do the math in my head, but you know what I mean. It's a percentage.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, I mean, it's a huge milestone for Sony, so well done to them. But to celebrate the milestone, they are releasing a limited edition PS4 Pro that's got a translucent dark blue case. And it's really nice, as I showed the picture just there. Looks like, my monitor looks almost bronze, but I'm sure it's kind of a gold PlayStation symbol. I'm sure it's got to be gold. But it just looks nice. It's that blue that kind of reminds me of, like, I guess what you would call like a cobalt kind of blue.
Yeah.
But then with the gold trim as well. I mean, that just, it looks really, really, really nice. So that edition, there's only going to be 50,000 units of it worldwide. It comes with a matching translucent blue DualShock 4 controller, a bundled stand, headset, and a PlayStation camera, which the camera isn't blue, unfortunately. But yeah, so it's pretty neat. It looks good. It's going to be, because I'm sure that the normal PS4 Pro has a 1 terabyte drive, whereas this limited edition is going to have a 2 terabyte drive. So that's, definitely a good thing for the gamers out there. I mean, come on. I mean, how soon did we have to get externals?
Very.
For our consoles.
Ridiculous now, isn't it? As you say, so.
But yeah, so it looks good. The US pricing looks like it's going to be about $499. So that is $100 more than a standard PS4 Pro. But when you consider that, well, it's got twice as big hard drive, it does come bundled, with some decent stuff, and it definitely looks the part. It's nice to see. It's nice to see. Good old limited editions. I wonder if they're ever going to do any kind of. Did they ever do like any Scorpios? Not Scorpios, but like 1Xs and different, like limited edition ones. Because I don't think they have yet.
Not that we need one. We got the Scorpio.
We don't need it.
I'll never regret that purchase. But yeah, no, I don't think so. But I mean, can Xbox boast the same numbers?
Well, no. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, as much as I love my Xbox and enjoy it. I mean, it's true when it comes to market share. I mean, PlayStation has the console market, big time. I mean, it's interesting when I'm pretty sure we discussed this before, didn't we? When we looked at the different regions and how actually it does vary, though. Like how so. In the Far East, in Asia, Sony is way, trumps Microsoft. But I think here in Europe, it's actually a lot closer. And with some countries, actually, the Xbox, like the 360, was more popular than the PS3 at the time, I believe. Whereas in the States, I'm pretty sure the PlayStation still edges out the Xbox, I'm fairly sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the thing is as well, like, the PlayStation has just had, I would say, more iterations of console and was around before, correct me if I'm wrong, the original Xbox, so you had obviously the PlayStation 1, so obviously they've had the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is 4. Obviously, Xbox, if you look at it from ignoring the X in a way, because it's still an Xbox One, you've just had the Xbox 360 and the One, haven't you? So, I mean, I think Sony's obviously cemented themselves, as you said, a long time ago, and especially from, like, a lot of, I think, older people as well, it's in their hearts a lot more from that side of things. It's
one of those things that I think also, too, that Sony was much better at communicating. Like, there was no... When the PlayStation came out, everyone knew it was for games. Yeah, you could play music CDs in it if you wanted, but, it was a gaming machine. And they've always done that, with each and every release, and I think Microsoft, and don't get me wrong, I know Microsoft has really upped their game in recent years, but in the beginning, I think their advertising was a bit off, because, I mean, you look at the One, right? If we just go, that's only a few years back, the One was being marketed more as this all-in-one entertainment center, where you could control your TV, you could plug in your Freeview, your satellite box, and, it was that was the whole reasoning behind the naming convention of the One. It was the one box. That's all you needed. And You know what I mean? Like, I think, and even before that, with the 360 and the original Xbox, there was still some issues there with, they were trying to straddle a few different markets. Whereas with the PlayStation, everyone knew right off the bat, it's it's a gaming console. Hence why, like, I know in the States growing up, like a lot of folk, it became similar to, like, when I was really young, like the older people, adults, they would, they wouldn't say, oh, he's playing video games. They'd be like, oh, he's playing Nintendo. And then later, as the generations on, became, oh, he's playing PlayStation. Regardless of if the kid was playing a PlayStation or not, that was just the thing. Whereas I don't think, at least not in the early years, Xbox never got to that same kind of thing. And I think a lot of times, even in this day and age, a lot of parents, maybe not of their own kids, because obviously they will have bought it for them, but, if they're talking about, oh yeah, he plays the PlayStation all the time. But, I think Xbox is starting to come around a bit more. But yeah, as you say, Sony has a very strong foothold. And then let's be brutally honest as well, some of their first party titles over the years have been fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Even like, I remember the reason I wanted a PlayStation and a PlayStation 2 was for two franchises and two franchises alone. And those were the Metal Gears, back when they were only on the PlayStation, and Gran Turismo. Those were the games I wanted to play, and the only way I could play them was on PlayStation. And then you fast forward to today, and, there's a similar kind of about when you look at things like, your Horizon Zero Dawn, your God of War, your Uncharted, Sony's first party game is really, really strong. But as we've discussed before, Microsoft's trying to remedy that. I think they've still got a long ways to go, but they are at least addressing it a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Like you say, there's even now, like, there's a lot. I explicitly brought a PlayStation just for The Last of Us.
Yeah, same.
Because I wanted to play that, and obviously I knew Horizon was coming out as well, and I was like, I want to play Horizon. So like I said, it's just even up to now, like the exclusives they have are crazy. They're so good, and it's the reason why I've got one. I don't play as much, and I need to pick up more. But yeah.
No, I mean, that's the thing. It seems that Sony as well, they've really kind of cemented themselves. I mean, I know they've got your Call of Duties and all that stuff, all your multiplayer games, but when it comes to some of the best single-player games that have a deep story, I mean, you'd have to be in denial to not recognize that Sony, that is one of their strongest suits compared to the Microsoft consoles, unfortunately.
Just gonna bring it up very quickly.
By them buying those studios that they just acquired, they're hoping to rectify that.
My only concern with Sony is the fact that they are so adamant against crossplay. Because I honestly think in the long term that will hurt them.
Yeah, I think that is the future.
I really do feel that will hurt them, because the fact that you've got things like, I think, Fortnite and even Rocket League that are Switch, Xbox and PC cross-platform. Obviously I don't really think you can easily, from what I'm aware of, try and group up with your mates or something across the platforms easily.
Yeah, but you'll get matched against them, though.
Yeah, but I mean, that's always something that they could always bring in-game lobbies in and they'll get a way around it and everything. It's always something that's a possibility there for them to be able to put in with cross-play becoming so prevalent.
I mean, as you know, when it comes to computer language, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about codes, and even when you have two different systems, to try to talk to each other, there's ways around that. You look at, it's like how the internet works with websites. They can put a wrapper on a website, so no matter what device you're on, it'll work. And you would imagine when it comes to multiplayer aspects that surely there'll be some type of protocol you could use, a middleman, a translator of sorts, to make, PlayStation gamers be able to play with Xbox gamers.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Because it would just, like you say, it would be. I mean, I know, they'll be thinking of, well, we want to try to protect ourselves and this, that, and this, but at the same time, when you allow gamers that choice, okay, in the end of the day, I can play. I have friends who have a PlayStation, and oh look, I've got an Xbox, but we can still play the same games together. It would be great. It would, rather than, I mean, even like you look at the social pressures on kids these days with social media and everything, and now this is just one of those other things that a parent who doesn't maybe know that much about video games buys their kid an Xbox for Christmas because, they thought, oh, he'll be so happy or she'll be so happy with it, only for the kid to be like, oh, all my friends have a PlayStation. And next thing he or she's getting teased, or I mean, I'd maybe taking it a bit too extreme, but you know what I mean. It would suck.
Oh yeah,
it would suck.
I think the thing is, well, looking at it from that point of view, is if cross-play lobbies did become a thing in these sort of bigger games, such as things like Fortnite, I will go with that because obviously it's huge at the moment. You've got somebody who wants to play Fortnite with their mates, and they're like, they've already got a PlayStation or an Xbox, say for example. And they're like, my mates all playing Fortnite and this. Yeah, it's likely they'll either A, get annoyed about it, or as you say, like, not made fun of, but, sort of they can't really get involved. But it's also more likely they're going to go and buy the Xbox, for example. Whereas, let's say they don't own that PlayStation, for example, their mate's got an Xbox, but they go, I really want a PlayStation because of these really cool exclusives, but I still want to play Fortnite. They'll lean more towards that PlayStation again because they'll be able to cross-play it. Whereas they might actually go, the exclusives aren't too much of an issue. I want to play my mates, so I'll buy the Xbox. And at which point Sony's lost a sale. But until we see really the big sort of what cross-play can do and perform as, I don't think it's a massive issue for Sony at the moment. But it's definitely a consideration for the future for them, I feel.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it can be a deal breaker. I mean, with gaming for some people where, I mean, if you do want to play with your friends and whatnot, it's like look at us, for example, right, with Destiny 2. You and I would have preferred, if we're honest, to play it on PC. We would have loved, we would have preferred that experience, but our crew was all on the Xbox, so that's what we did. We got on Xbox, we could play with them. Likewise, I mean, I don't know, it's tricky. I mean, you can imagine if, say, the One X wasn't that amazing, but the PS4 Pro was really blowing it out of the water, then yeah, I mean, I could have very well have said, I might, get that instead. But oh well, we'll just have to see. But anyway, yes, their limited edition one to celebrate hitting 500 million consoles sold worldwide. Looks really, really nice. So there you go. If you want one, you'll have to try to snag it, because, I mean, with only 50,000 units available, that thing will sell quick, I would imagine. And then, what will happen? There'll be the resellers. Just like we saw with Scorpio. Oh, my.
How much did people manage to resell Scorpio for?
Initially, remember, folk were selling just, their pre-order spot. I mean, I'm sure folk were doubling, tripling their money quite easily. I'm sure, didn't we actually at the time? I'm sure we talked about this, and we pulled it up on eBay, looking at some of the prices, and I'm sure folk were selling them for in our money $1,000 or more, 1,200.
Yeah, I can't remember. Unfortunately, there's nothing really to stop that from happening, is there? Because
in fact, I'm sure, weren't we talking? You had almost considered it.
Almost, but I'd like Scorpio.
But yeah, it was nice to have the Scorpio. Do you actually use the controller though, or is it
no
protected, hiding away?
No, actually, at the moment it's on top of my PlayStation, gathering dust. So I actually need dust on my consoles off again at some point.
I've got mine hidden away too. Speaking of the Elite controller, to give you an idea how much of No Man's Sky was playing, Jay. Now keep in mind, I just got a new controller not that long ago. Because remember, my first one, I'd sent it back, and it came back, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually that one had the, more stuff go wrong with it. Well, my new one, that stupid little grey rubber stuff, started coming away again.
Oh, no.
Yep. So what I did was, because my old Elite controller, the paddles no longer work on it. That's what I use on my PC now. So I screw it and I switched to rubber bits, the back of the handles.
Yeah.
So now my main console one is working as intended, but it's just allegedly at Gamescom they're going to be possibly announcing a new version of the Elite controller. I hope we'll just have to see if that actually happens. Because it's just... I mean, this is the thing, when you look at the quality of the Scorpio controller, it's better. It's better than the damn Elite, but those paddles are just so damn handy.
I'll tell you something, if they had a Scorpio-looking Elite controller come out, I would buy that without a shadow of a doubt, retire my current one.
Yeah.
Then I'll just be in the full... Because I absolutely love that Scorpio controller. Like I said, annoyingly, I need to really put it in a place where it's not gathering dust.
Well, that's the thing, because it's Bluetooth. You know, I mean, you can use it with tablets, with...
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
So good. Like, it's such a nice controller, but...
Fantastic. Right, so next, this was a little article I'd found. I just we'll just briefly talk about it, because it is honestly a really, really good read. And this is over at www.gamesindustry.biz. And this is an article that is about the Netflix of games. Remember, not that long ago, we were discussing the whole game streaming concept. I mean, the release of, the development of Xbox Scarlet, and how even Sony might possibly be looking at a console that is mainly a platform to stream games from. But this article is really, really quite interesting, because it's stating that a Netflix of games could possibly be a threat to developers, and that if subscription streaming services really take off, creators are quite likely to lose leverage in dealing with platform holders. Now, just before the show, Jay and I were actually discussing this briefly, because, we talked about it before, how these game streaming services, and even this direction that they might be taking, is makes good business sense for them, for Microsoft, for Sony. But the one thing that, and if I'm honest, it's, I didn't really think about at the time, is what about the actual developers themselves? Because to put this into perspective, if we compare, and I know they're different industries, but if we compare the gaming industry to the music industry, artists left and right complain that, yes, streaming services are where we're at now. It's the future. It's not even the future. It's just today, right? I mean, that's where everything's at. But they're losing a lot of money compared to their CD sales. There's a tweet from Peter Frampton, who, and this is the direct quote, says, "For 55 million streams of Baby I Love Your Way, I got $1,700. And that just seems, I mean, again, if we do the percentage of that, $1,700 divided by 55 million, I mean, he's getting fractions, of a cent for, each stream. So it's a bit of a shame, and it does make you wonder, could that potentially happen to, the game developers as well? Would, is it potentially, I mean, I know there's ways to combat that, Jay, isn't there, right? Like, I mean, like Netflix, for example, they'll compensate, like, a studio, right? If a movie's going to be, they pay a decent amount for that. So I would imagine for game streaming, surely Microsoft and whatnot will still give them a large amount of money. But is it maybe a case of, like, they'll get a big chunk of money right now, which that sounds good, but really, if you kind of, like, look over a long period of time, they could realistically lose money? Is that...
It's hard to tell, isn't it, as you say, really, because without knowing the sort of the offers that are coming from it and the likelihood that, I think it depends as well, because for, like, big major games, for example, are they going to lose money on? Because things like COD and stuff, people are obviously going to buy, aren't they?
Yeah.
But is that necessarily going to be the case? But then smaller games, though, they're like, oh, I can pay this money and, play this game and whatnot. But again, obviously, they're not going to be getting paid by how many people play the game. It's going to be a payment that's done beforehand. So, yeah, as you say, it's quite tough to tell if it'd be good for them or not. Because, I mean, you've got things like Netflix and Now TV, for example, which must do it somehow and do it well. Otherwise, these platforms wouldn't exist anymore, would they?
Yeah.
Just down to that simple fact. But it's difficult to tell. I mean, as you said before, I think it'd be good personally in a way, but as like I said, I don't think it's something that could as well just become a thing, because you say about obviously people in the world with different internet connections and whatnot, makes it pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, from the money point of view, though, be very hard to tell. I mean, an interesting, not be easy to do though, would be like a trial version of it almost. So them looking at, like having so many games on it and seeing what happens with it. And I expect there'll be a lot of contract talks as well between developers and the studios who are running those or whatnot. Because as you say, they've got to make sure they're getting their money's worth out of it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that like the big games, like you said, like COD, they'll probably make a killing on this type of stuff because then it'll open up, these kind of wars where, say for example, Sony says, well, what about for exclusive? Like it'll be streaming on PlayStation Go or whatever the hell they call their thing for the first month or something, right? We'll give you an extra 10 mil. So like I think the big devs, the big studios, the big publishers, they'll probably make out from this really, really well. But it's like you say, what about those little folk, or even untested? What about like an indie dev? How do you quantify what they're actually worth? Just based off of their potential. So it is weird. There's a great figure in the article itself talking about the music industry in the US, which the US music industry is about $43 billion in revenue. And the artists themselves only pocket about 12%, with the rest of the money going to middlemen, between themselves and the actual audience. So it just makes you wonder if it would be the same with devs as well. But it could be interesting to see, because maybe even like this article suggests, maybe only the AAA games would be on the subscription services.
I definitely think the interesting thing to be looking at as well would be, the possibility of for not in-house devs, so things like obviously Microsoft's own devs or Microsoft's own mini game companies or however you want to call it. For streaming for those wouldn't be too much of an issue for them because obviously they're their games at the end of the day. So even something like that, it could potentially be a good start to see how it goes and ends up like. But yeah, as you say, like you look at the music industry and how the music industry, in all honesty with you, isn't exactly great due to that, is it really? As you say, like the fact they're only
iTunes killed it. The whole concept of I can't remember. Why can't I remember the guy? The big music producer dude. Who teamed up, Dr. Dre and all that kind of. I can't. Sorry, my head's not there. But they basically were one of the kind of moving forces on music streaming and iTunes way back when. And even like today, they admit, like they did make a killing out of all that, being at the forefront of it. But yeah, fast forward and they realized that they kind of killed the music industry because, that was the difference between when you were selling physical CDs, it was a nice, you could physically see the results and you were getting a good chunk of that money. Whereas with a streaming service, it's a completely different kettle of fish. And I mean, even now, come on, let's be honest. How many folk, you can listen to the radio and stuff, but there's a lot of people out there that use YouTube. I know my partner, a lot of times if she's like, hanging out with her friends, like say if they're having a few drinks or having a wee party or something, that's what they do. They'll fire up YouTube, just to do like a music playlist. That's not a subscription service. It's not, I know there's money and revenue obviously with ads, so I know people do get paid, but I'm sure these artists whose videos are on YouTube, they're not making as much money as compared to if they were actually selling physical copies. But oh well.
Well, exactly.
These things change. Now, speaking of changes, there are 5 big changes coming to Destiny 2. This article's from GamesRadar.com, and of course it's to do with the upcoming expansion, right? Forsaken, we can categorize that as an expansion, right, Jay? Not
yes.
Because with Destiny, they've always done that. The 2 DLCs, then an expansion, then there'll be 2 more DLCs, and then who knows? We'll either get another expansion or Destiny 3.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Destiny 2, of course, and it's amazing how time flies, is about to hit year 2. And so for year 2, there's plenty of changes. more flexible guns, powerful abilities, and you know what, Jay has been playing Destiny 2 quite a lot recently because of the moments of triumph and whatnot. So he is much well versed in what's coming up in this. I have, admittedly, as much as I love Destiny, I've kind of turned my back on it for a little while. I do want to get on. I know there's stuff I need to do, but I've been playing other things, and I just, haven't quite got there. So take us through some of the stuff, Jay. What is coming to Destiny 2? I mean, is it enough to bring people back?
Oh, I think it is, to be honest with you. There's a lot of changes, which, again, we can come back to this old argument of, these things that should have been there in the beginning and whatnot, and, they just slowly bringing Destiny 2 back to Destiny 1, which I understand the arguments for. But they are improving the game massively, and they're doing a lot of stuff that, to be fair, are good quality of life changes and weren't even present in Destiny 1 anyway. So yeah, I personally do think it will be enough to bring back players, and that's already been seen by. I'm pretty sure recently the player count was at the same point as it was when Warmind came out, when players flocked back, and there's a lot of hype around it at the moment, be it for the good or the bad. Hard to tell at the moment, but yeah. So I think one of the big major changes coming out is obviously the way the weapon system has now changed to work. So obviously, instead of this whole entire, what we currently have, as the power weapons and things like snipers, shotguns and rockets being in there and whatnot, and then your kinetic and energy, essentially what's happening in the weapon system is an overhaul. So you can essentially, it's like some of the shotguns and snipers and things are moving into your energy slot. And then, so you can obviously still have like a kinetic weapon, primary, and like an energy slot second, or as they're calling it, primary and secondaries again. So they're moving into the secondary slots.
So again, we're going back to
it depends. From what I remember, but they might be calling it special secondary. I can't really say what they're calling it now. But and again, you can actually have, for example, I believe if I'm correct, like an energy weapon in your primary slot and an energy weapon in your secondary slot. What this means is when things like, obviously, secondary ammo drops, it'll be split between the two weapons, so it won't be between the two guns. If I'm correct in remembering this all, I'll make sure I am actually correct.
Yeah, because from what I gather, it's not about damage type, it's all about ammo type.
Here you go.
So you could have two guns that have special ammo.
But you'd have a hard time keeping them loaded, because obviously you won't benefit as much from like the scaled up precision damage as it says, and obviously the ammo. And the first slot's still reserved exclusively for weapons that use heavy ammo, and certain things are going to stay in there for the better, let's be honest. So I'm pretty sure things like rockets and stuff should obviously be heavies, because you don't want to allow somebody trying to run with 3 rocket launchers.
That would be a bit much. But, I mean, 3 shotguns sounds horrible.
Yeah, well, exactly.
To be fair, but yeah.
That's the point, though, isn't it? And I think again, the massive changes a lot of players are happy for, and again, could argue should have been there in the first place, is the randomized rolls now on guns.
Okay.
So obviously, again, it brings that whole entire thing back to you can chase for your weapons, you can obviously feel that chase kind of thing, which is again I think a good thing. Because
wasn't that one of the big critiques really of Destiny 2 was that a lot of the weapons just felt so samey or generic that there wasn't enough kind of even like the Iron Banner stuff. There was a lot of weapons there that wait a minute, this is the same as the Vanguard weapon, just has a different skin on it.
I mean, you've got to give Bungie their due credit at the moment, just the pure fact of these are obviously, things that we're not too sure if they were in talks with, obviously, the live team when they were doing things like Rise of Iron and stuff, and the Destiny 2 team at the time. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they've done this, I want to call it an experiment as such, and, the community's not reacted well to it, and they've actually gone and changed it, which is good to see. And I think another massive improvement over Destiny at the moment has been Bungie have been so much more vocal and communicative about it all, and it's moving to a much better place. And obviously, again, PvP system they're overhauling in a way, so time to kill's going up. So I mean, you can come back to like your sort of free hand cannon shots, headshots to kill. You've got 2-punch melee back. There's a thing coming out which not people know what's going to happen, but obviously shoulder charge is now one-shot kill, and the exotic skull fort basically means when you get a kill with melee, it or something. I think it was skull fort, something like that. Will basically regen your melee back to full. So, as such, you know,
I mean,
can you just run around spamming shoulder charge?
One of my, I will admit, in the original Destiny, if I did Striker Titan PvP, that was one of my favorite things, just to run around and shoulder charge.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was just that good.
Well, exactly.
And if you did just clip them and you didn't kill them, then it was immediately shoot them with a shotgun.
Oh, totally. And again, like, I think this is great having all this come back. And again, obviously, the new PvP ammo, so the way obviously the new weapons now work, and the PvP ammo is changing as well. So you'll spawn with so much special ammo at the beginning of the game. Every single time you respawn, so obviously you're always going to have it, which is nice, you know. And if you get killed, you'll drop whatever you have left. Now, what makes this quite interesting, as the article quite rightly points out, is obviously if you're going to sit there and camp in a corner with your sniper, for example, you're going to eventually run out of ammo. And what makes it worse is if you kill those people, they're going to drop their special that can be picked up by their team again. So really, you're just letting them recycle the ammo, even though you're killing them. So I think that's quite a good big change. And again, I definitely think it's something that's welcome, because it'll make everybody in the same sort of point again, not this whole entire... Like, I mean, it's bad enough with the heavy at the moment, I personally think.
Yeah, because they're doing away with the actual special ammo spawns as well, aren't they? Where the only way to get more ammo is going to be to picking it up off fallen guardians.
Yeah, or, you know, getting yourself killed if you really run out and you're like, oh, I'll go kill myself. But yeah, and then obviously, again, the other big change is the mod system, from my point of view, from what I've seen so far. So I haven't really had a proper in-depth look at the combat stream, which really did this. I haven't had time to have a look at it yet. It's kind of upsetting and frustrating. So again, my knowledge about all this is quite limited, just down to that fact I haven't had time to watch it yet. But the mod system, obviously, everything overhauled, so you've got loads of different mods coming out. So I've seen things like Icarus coming back as mods, and obviously, like I said, you've got these 3 cool ones, which is like extra damage to the lobby enemies, then extra damage to maids, and extra damage to bosses. And again, what makes this really nice is just bringing more back to this customizable loadout. Yeah, you've got the random weapon perks, but then you're like, oh, if I want my gun to have Icarus, I'll get an Icarus mod and slap it on there. Or if I want to have, like, for example, my gun I'm going to be using a setup that, like, maybe for boss fights, for example. So, you know, let's be honest, you could have a setup that is designed for a boss fight, which you swap before you go to the boss room in a raid. And, you know, things like that. So I definitely think it brings a nice bit of customization, because I'm not going to run through a whole entire raid using 3 weapons that have extra boss damage, because it's just a waste when I could be having extra stuff on there. But at the same time, I could then have 3 sets of armor set up that I go, oh yeah, you know what? Actually, my weapons. I've got this weapon set up I want now. I'm going to swap at the boss, or, you know, maybe have one which does more damage to boss, one to mages, and one to things like... Yeah, just the possibilities for it is great, I think, now looking at it as well, which is nice about it. And I'll be looking forward to actually playing it as well when it does happen.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. Because now, obviously, Forsaken is going to be releasing on September 4th, but these changes, the actual Destiny 2 Year 2 patch, will be going into force on August 28th.
Yep.
So we're going to have this strange little kind of crossover week where a lot of these new systems are going to be in place, but we'll still be using Year 1 weapons and content. So it'll be interesting to see what that week's going to be like. I mean, I'm just... You know, I mean, the more you talk about it, Jay, I just think that, yeah, I might have to just have a look back in when Forsaken comes out, I suppose.
I mean, if anything, just wait till I tell you how I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think
will be getting a day 1 drop, so
I'll get back on. I'll do the Moments of Triumph, you know, enough to get the T-shirt. I think that'll make me happy. And then yeah, we'll just go from there, and I'll see, because it just depends. Cause, I mean,
I don't know if I don't know if you saw the trailer I put into Discord for the Dreaming City as well earlier. But it looks honestly stunning, and I think what they're doing with it, I feel like I'm still being a bit cautiously optimistic, considering I've always thought like certain campaigns, Curse for Cyrus, for example, was going to be a lot better than what it was. But I'm trying not to be too like hype, but it does look fantastic, and they're holding. So their whole entire raid space, for example, from what I've seen, is obviously it's open up until the raid point. You know, it's going to change, so it's going to be dynamic from what I'm aware of. And again, from what I've heard, there's a lot more stuff for solo players to do, even in that raid area, which again will be interesting to see what they do and how they've tried to achieve that.
I mean, the thing is,
very interesting.
You know, one of the things I've always said, and you know, I've always kind of had a bit of tongue in cheek, but you know, a bit of kind of seriousness to it, is that it seems like Destiny 2 in a lot of ways, like Bungie, they've repeated a lot of like history. They've done a lot of things very, you know, similar to how they've done things before. And I think in this case, that's not necessarily going to be a bad thing, because when you think of when Destiny came out, and then when the 2 DLCs came out, and they were cool, you know, they were neat, but they did leave a lot of people wanting more. But then when the Taken King came out, the majority of people were just gobsmacked by the amount of content, how much it changed things, how amazing it was. So I don't think it's completely out of the question to consider that the very same could happen. You know, Forsaken could be that, you know, Destiny 2's The Taken King. It has the potential to do that for the game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Whether it does or not, like say, yes, we can't be sure of. But again, just looking back at how much Bungie seems to have repeated so many kind of missteps, and like they've done so many things so similar to how they've done before. You know what I mean? I mean, they've done a lot of things differently, but when it comes to actually like the timing of releases, their actual plan for a little DLC here, a DLC there, one, you know, focus on this, one focus on that, the way that they've changed the raid and the raid layer, it just, yeah, I think Forsaken could definitely change things up.
And I think very quickly as well, bringing on to what you said there about the expansions, the fact they're changing the way the season pass works, I think is going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, that is a big change.
And I'm intrigued by how that's going to work out, because obviously they've sort of basically said they probably won't be, from what I remember seeing, releasing new planets or things like that. But there's a chance they'll be doing things like obviously releasing new areas in those things and bringing out new content to do. And that could be just small little things like new strikes and everything and Crucible maps. And I think that's going to be a much better model for them again as well, because, you know, if they can implement small little story stuff and almost sort of push the story over that period as well, or whatever they decide to do, I think it'll work out a lot better for them. But again, we'll see. I look forward to see what's going on. My biggest thing here out of all of this is I just hope they've learned their mistake if they're actually going to do another transition to a, let's be honest, a kind of reset to Destiny 3, and that they don't suddenly implement stuff they think is going to be good again and it's not, and ignore what they've learned from Destiny 2. That's the biggest concern for me, is looking at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it seems that it doesn't make sense to do a Destiny 3 unless we have a platform shift. You know what I mean? Like if the next gen consoles came out, because they've got all the hardware they need at the moment. They can enhance and optimize for the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One X, and by having this kind of the seasons that they've been doing, I mean, look at games like your Rainbow Six Siege or For Honor, you know, a lot of the Ubisoft games where, you know, there's some that they kind of realize that, well, actually, no, we don't have to release sequels, we just have to update. I mean, look at World of Warcraft. You know, all that does is expansion packs and, you know, DLCs, and they update and change rather than, you know, say, right, that's over, World of Warcraft 2's coming out. You know, that's not how they work. And I think Destiny 2's in that place where they could realistically do that instead. Look at refining and improving upon and, you know, changing it. But then I suppose that it's a tough sell for the boardroom, because one of the biggest problems when you do that with a game is then when you get into that next generation, like now the young children who are now that little bit older and they want to start playing Destiny 2.
Yeah.
It's a really, really long road for them to travel, where they have to get through the base game and then Curse of Osiris and then the Warmind. Oh, and then they have to get through Forsaken and then whatever else comes out over the next couple of years. Whereas when they come out with a fresh game like Destiny 3, you know, because let's be honest, this is what Destiny 2 did. A lot of folk picked up Destiny 2 that had never played the original. Especially when you think about PC gamers, because, you know, they didn't have, solely PC gamers. But, you know, a lot of people jumped on Destiny 2 after, admitting that Destiny 1 never really appealed to them. So I think, unfortunately, while I'd like to say, no, they don't need to come out with another game, they can just continue to improve upon this one. I think the business model won't allow for that. I think they will end up having to, because otherwise, look, your Call of Duties, they wouldn't need to release new games. They could just do seasonal, yearly updates to one Call of Duty with new content and whatnot. But
I think the big thing is, from what I've seen again as well, how much this is obviously the contract with Bungie and Sony or whether their contracts are or whatnot, is basically releasing separate expansions almost. I mean, there's a way they could get around that and stuff, but at the moment, I'm going to enjoy the moment of what we're getting and just,
hope for the best.
Exactly.
Right, let's we'll try to crack these ones out quickly as we can. Just a very, very brief one, and unfortunately for you folks over in the US, this might no longer even be the case, but I noticed this at WCCF Tech. Was now, of course, Threadripper 2, the review samples have been sent out to, websites, tech tubers and all that. This week, the embargo lifted for the unboxing embargoes, but the actual benchmark embargoes do not lift until next week. So there's no actual information on how they perform this, that, and this, but we have at least been able to see what they look like. The wonderful, huge CPU coolers that they sent out with these that will not be included in the retail product, but you can buy separately. But anyway, it looked amazing. So now, with Threadripper 2 just about to hit the streets, certain stores are trying to clear out their stock of the original Threadrippers. So this article on WCCF Tech basically had showed that AMD's their 12-core Threadripper, which was the middle model, the 1920X. Remember, they have the they had the base model, which was the 8-core 16-thread, the middle model that's the 12-core 24-thread, and then their top of the line that was the 1632. But so over in the US, you were able to grab it for as low as $249 US. So this made me wonder, I wonder how much, discounted it is over here. So I just pulled up Amazon.co.uk, and obviously this is in our currency, Great British Pounds. So the same processor, the 1920, is sitting at £354. But as you can see here, at the time that we're recording this, there's only one left in stock. But that is, it's a huge deal, and that's more than half price. Its retail price was 799 Great British Pounds. It's down to 354. Even cheaper yet, is their 8-core down to 281. But even their top of the line 16-core one at 660 for that processor is quite good. I mean, and it does raise the question of, if you were just about to buy a Ryzen system, is it worth spending that little bit more to get, a first gen Threadripper chip? And, let's be honest, unless most consumers don't need that amount of horsepower. Now, yes, if you're a prosumer, or likewise, if you're really into video production, video editing, there's definitely an argument for streaming. Still don't necessarily need this much horsepower. Then yes, there might be a reason to spend that little bit extra to maybe get one of these. But the big problem you're going to find is with Threadripper is the platform itself. The motherboards are way more expensive than normal Ryzen motherboards. And then also when you think about RAM, Ryzen Threadripper is capable of quad channel. So it has 8 RAM slots. So you really want to try to populate those. But at the same time, if you do, then you have to lower down the RAM speed. So for most gamers and whatnot, Threadripper's a bit of overkill. And that's why with the Threadripper 2, they've actually split up their chips into the WX series, which is for professionals, and the non-WX, I think just the normal X, which is more aimed at the gamers. Because it's true, the higher cores are great, but games just don't take advantage of that many cores. Whereas, if you want to edit and render a video in 4K, then a Threadripper is going to burn through that. Fantastically. Same like, imagine, Jay, if you're doing programming or whatever and running a whole bunch of virtual machines or compiling code, if you've got these things would just
even things like multi-threading and stuff as well. Like you say, anything like that, it's fantastic. I'll always make that argument as well. People are like, "Oh, why do you need that much RAM or that much like processing power and all this?" And it's like, if you do things like computer programming or video editing or anything like that, you need that sort of stuff. You can't do it without.
It does. Makes a hell of a difference. Gaming, not so much, but at the same time, the thing about Threadripper that's quite amazing is you could be playing a game and rendering a video at the same time.
Oh yeah, exactly.
If you wish, and hell, why don't you just stream as well?
Why not? Why not just really push it to the boundaries?
They're a super enthusiast, hardcore product. I mean, it's like the i9s from Intel. The i9s are crazy expensive. Most gamers don't need anything like that. But likewise, if you're talking about rendering a video in Adobe Premiere, or if you want super high Cinebench scores, then they're fantastic.
Well, it's like you say, it's 3D modeling. I remember doing using the program Maya and doing some like mental ray or something, rendering at like 4K at the time back in uni. And obviously, that was literally 3 apples on a table with a light source and some sort of grayscale texturing, and doing all that in like mental ray and everything took like 30 minutes. And I mean, that's just that. I mean, things like Maya and stuff are sometimes used for like gaming cutscenes or film-like things. So yeah, again, just little things like that, they are so needed, and the change in difference you'll see in terms of like loading speeds and creating and whatnot and rendering speeds and things like that it's insane.
Yeah, no, it is. It's pretty crazy, but yeah. So if you can find them, first-gen Threadrippers are heavily discounted. But, it might be worth just holding on to your money, because the Threadripper 2 pricing isn't that bad compared to, what I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. They're still expensive, but they've got a really, really vast lineup. So it'll be interesting to see how much better they perform than the original Threadripper, because even the original Threadripper, even so there's been BIOS updates, there are some issues with memory. Like, still to this day, I believe the Threadripper platform is only officially supports RAM to speed up to 2666. Now, yes, you can put in 3200 and higher. You can overclock, but it's quite funny because, like, you could put in 2 sticks at 3200, and you'd most likely be absolutely fine. Might have to bump down to about 3000, and then if you want to populate all 8 slots, that's when you run into some issues. That's one of the downsides, and again, this is the thing. If you're talking about a 32-core, a 16-core, 32-thread processor with, say, 64 gigabytes of RAM, that difference in RAM speed itself isn't going to be, yes, you see a lot of benefits on the lower ends when you, like, I noticed it on my i7, for example, when I jumped in RAM speed. I'd went my old RAM, because it still uses DDR3. I'd had 2133 in it, I believe.
Yeah.
And then whenever I was building, my stepdaughter's computer, I gave her that, and I bought myself some nice shiny new stuff. Still DDR3, but I got higher speed. I got 2666. And just the difference, like in my video rendering, it was really, really noticeable. Because I was already, pushing the system to the limits anyway. But in stuff like Threadripper, it can be a bit tricky. Right, today, which is, if you're watching this is yesterday, was when Red Dead Redemption 2's new trailer dropped. So I got this from The Verge, even so, you can see it. It's all over the internet. So they have an official gameplay video, and it is just 6 minutes, of pure gameplay. Jay and I again were talking about this before the show, and it's not really a game that is on our radars, really. I mean, we appreciate it; they're cool, but the first one just was never really my thing. I mean, it's funny because I love westerns, like I do enjoy western films, but as far as Red Dead Redemption, I just never really got into it. It just wasn't my thing. But the sequel, it does, I mean, graphically, it looks fantastic. It does look absolutely stunning. And, you know, it looks like there's going to be all sorts of things for you to do, you know, fishing, hunting, all sorts of mini games, you know, and it's going to be, you know, you're still dealing with a lot of the same characters because Red Dead Redemption 2 is actually a prequel to the original Red Dead Redemption. So it's a prequel rather than a sequel. But yeah, it does look good. You know, it's going to take a lot of cues, I think, from more modern games, you know, when it comes to the way that they work. Like, you know, how you'll basically have a camp that acts as a hub where, you know, that will be your base of operations and you can kind of go out and do activities and whatever. So it looks like the gameplay mechanics have very much been modernized and revamped, so to speak. But no, it looks quite good. There's even, did you see this, Jay, about this mechanic in regards to horses? They'll actually have varying, the horses in the game will actually have varying temperaments. You know, likes and dislikes. You'll be able to feed and groom your horse, and over time your bond will grow closer. The more experience you build up with a horse, the better stats it will have, and the easier it'll be to calm it down should it ever become scared. It's
pretty cool mechanic, to be fair.
Yeah, I have no doubt that someone over at Scully Gamers will be grabbing this. I don't know if we'll get a copy for review or not. But I know for a fact, I know plenty of folk that will definitely be grabbing this. So it'll be interesting to see what their thoughts are.
Yeah.
For anyone interested, it does of course come out on October 26th for PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And basically, as it stands, that is Rockstar's first new game that is being developed for the current generation of platforms. So it'll be interesting to see. And no doubt for PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, it's going to be 4K enhanced and all that kind of stuff. So it'll probably look fantastic. What do you think? Could it be worth taking a cheeky look at it? Could it be...
I probably won't, to be fair, but just mainly because I've got too many games I want to play.
I know, it's horrible. Like, I'm actually, as much as I love the Humble Bundle, and I love what Humble stands for, at the same time I hate it because my library on Steam just keeps growing and growing. Just the last month I got The Surge. And The Surge is a game that I've really wanted to play. I really had considered buying it on console. And so now I have that on PC. Same with Conan Exiles. And it's like, oh god, there's just so much stuff to play.
I've still got the whole entire Tomb Raider collection on my Steam
list. Yes, same. I've got the Tomb Raiders. I still haven't played. I want to play them, and I haven't.
It's just finding the time. It's like
Jay, first world problems.
I know. I love Destiny.
Come on, there's folk out there that would be giving their right leg just to be able to get a new game, and here you are. Just bragging about...
It's disgusting, isn't it? But it's Steam sales.
But even on your PlayStation, right? Isn't there still a bunch of stuff you haven't really...
I've got to finish off Darksiders 2, because Darksiders 3 is coming out, which I can't wait for. I've got to play Last Guardian, I've got to finish off Ratchet and Clank. Last of Us 2 will be out at some point, I'll have that to play. I've got to finish off Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, it's just... Oh, Bloodborne as well. Yeah, It's got such a big list. I just never find the time.
It's funny you say that. I've still got Dark Souls 3 for Xbox One that I've never even opened. I bought the physical version of it. That was that special edition one. I've still never opened it. It's still sitting there. Oh god, yeah.
It's games like Destiny just come along and ruin it for me because I'll be playing them a lot, and it's just like,
no, I know
why do I do this?
I know what you mean. I mean, it's the same like me every so often I get, if there's something I'm going to review or whatever, quite often that'll throw kind of a spanner in the works for me with my gaming time as well. I mean, that was like I did not realize that No Man's Sky was going to get me as hooked as that. To put in this perspective, I pre-ordered it on PC back in 2016, right? And I've only think I amassed maybe 30 hours in the game, overall. And then it came out 2 weeks ago on Xbox, and I've got over 100 hours on it. I couldn't stop playing it. It was just fantastic. The graphics on the X, and it was quite interesting. I did fire up on the normal Xbox, Jay, and yeah, it's a different game. I'll just leave it at that. It's the experience is not the same.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Just the difference between, like I said, when I got Monster Hunter World and I played it on my normal Xbox, it was like night and day.
Yeah, I did the same. I tried it just to see, and there was like, oh my god, how can? And I love Monster Hunter World. Exactly. I absolutely love it. But on the base Xbox, I don't know how Gim does it. How we can play, or even like how because Nate was the same, right? Nate doesn't have an X. So
I don't think he does.
It's only the two of us.
I honestly have no regrets in the purchase of it either, at all. No. It was such a good buy.
I'll tell you something though, No Man's Sky is the first game I've heard that makes the X, the fan, actually properly spins up on it. Which I don't think... I think that's more of a coding issue. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's really pushing it that bad, but yeah, like, big time. I've read the same about folk on PS4 Pro, saying that they thought that their PlayStation was going to take off out the room because it was spinning up.
I just need to really get that nice HDR monitor to really. HDR,
I mean, that's the big thing, really, and they're coming down in price. They certainly are. I mean, there's even an argument, Jay, to save a bit of money and get, because now that the Xbox One X supports 2K. To get a 2K HDR monitor, because if you think about it, if you got a 4K display, that's going to be putting a fair amount of stress on your PC as well. Whereas a 2K is a nice, my next purchase for this build that I'm going to be doing, I toyed with that idea myself, and I'm actually going to be getting a 2K, a 1440p display. I'm not going to be able to spend money to get it with HDR, unfortunately, but it is going to be 1440 100 hertz with FreeSync, so that'll hopefully play quite well.
Exactly.
Because that's the thing too, when you think about your Xbox One X, if it's obviously you can get 4K, but it's 2K capable as well, which at those distances, your 2K is going to look really, really good. A 2K monitor with HDR is going to be, you'll be hard pressed to tell much of a difference, I would think, side by side. But it's just one of these things that, you need to really see it. And the monitor world it's kind of tricky to navigate, because not all HDRs are created equal, not all panels are created equal. And in the monitor scene, it's tricky, because you end up paying a fair amount. But with the high end ones that are going to be coming out, and they're already out, that'll hopefully drive prices of these other monitors out. Because we're the same. Funnily enough, there's a 4K TV at Aldi at the moment, for about 400 quid, and it's got HDR and everything. It's a good size, and I started looking at the specs on the internet, and it's actually pretty good. So I'm just so tempted. It'd be lovely, because I think that's the way I'm gonna go. We'll get a TV. We'll get a 4K TV, but when it comes to the computer monitors, I'm gonna go with 2K and be happy.
Yeah, it seems like that might be the better option, because as you say, TVs.
This is the thing.
Look, much cheaper, aren't they?
Well, TVs are. I mean, so you could get, the problem with TVs is sizing, because you would end up getting something that'd be too big for you, for sitting at the desk. So that's your problem with that, unfortunately, is size. Is TVs are going to be too big, ones that are 4K and with HDR. So yeah, you really need that monitor, and that's the unfortunate thing. Even with the 4K, a lot of the 4K monitors are an okay size, but probably not as big as you would like. Whereas a 2K, that might be a nice compromise. Because like I said before, with 4K, the problem is too, when it comes to your setup. I mean, okay, I know you're using SLI and whatnot, but it also, trying to, just like your desktop resolution at 4K will put more load on your CPU as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just one of those things. I started thinking about it for my next build. I was like, well, wait a minute. If I get a 4K display I mean, hell, a 1080 Ti at the minute doesn't do a lot of AAA games in 4K 60 frames, so, and there's no way I'm buying one of those cards. That's way out of my price league.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, right, we've digressed enough from the tech and gaming news. But hey, Sergeant J, as always, thank you so much for being around this week. Always a pleasure. It was nice to catch up with you because we haven't actually really chatted much this week. In the meantime, folks, look, we'll be back next week, of course. Check out the website as usual, www.scholarlygamers.com. There's plenty of content for everybody. We've been quite review heavy of late. We get sent codes for stuff all the time, but hopefully we'll get some more features and some of the good reads out a little bit more. Just today, for example, again, yesterday, if you're watching this, there was a great piece published by Matt about his time at Otakuthon, specifically to do with the orchestra and the game music that they were playing, everything. So really, really good read. And as always, check out Twitch. You can go to the website and see who's streaming, as well as a list of all of the Scholarly Gamers streamers. But you can also just search, look on Twitter, look for the hashtag Scholarly Gamers, and you'll likely find someone who's going live, is planning to go live. And then likewise on Twitch itself, if you just search for that hashtag, most of our streamers should be streaming with that or to the Scholarly Gamers community as well. But anyway, folks, that is going to do it for this week. Next week, I'm hoping we'll have some actual hard information on how Threadripper 2 performs. So that'll be quite interesting. And we'll just have to see if there's any other good gaming news and whatnot. But hey, we've got a whole week. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, have a safe weekend, and we'll catch you again next time.
Bye.